On this episode of Andy's Autosport TV, we're going to talk about the differences between fiberglass and polyurethane body kits. We're going to do some durability testing and even drop a polyurethane bumper cover from an airplane. One of the most common questions we get at AndysAutoSport.com is, what is the difference between a polyurethane and a fiberglass body kit? The reason we get this question all the time is the majority of our kits are made out of either polyurethane or fiberglass. On this episode of Andy's Autosport TV, we're going to talk about the differences and hopefully clear some of those questions up. In a nutshell, there are basically two totally different materials. Urethane, or polyurethane for long, as you can see, is a rubbery, very, very durable type material. This is a very flexible piece. This is a lip from Wings West. Now, fiberglass, on the other hand, is much more rigid and holds its shape better. Now, this particular example from VIS is a front bumper cover. Now, as you can see, it still has a little bit of flex, but has none of the rubbery characteristics of urethane. So now that you know the difference between these two materials, which one should you buy for your vehicle? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to show you the pros and cons of each to help you make that decision. Let's start by giving you a detailed look at urethane. It's really flexible, so if you bump into a curb or parking block, you don't have to worry about destroying your body kit. In fact, we decided to take it a step further and see what happens if we run over it with our 4-ton diesel truck. As you can see, it just pops right back into place. So the biggest benefit of urethane is that it's virtually unbreakable. Still not convinced? How about we drop a polyurethane bumper cover from an airplane? As you can see, no damage to our polyurethane bumper. This polyurethane, very durable. If you ever drop your car out of an airplane, you can probably reuse the polyurethane body kit. Urethane is usually easier to install too because it is so flexible and pliable. Now, a single mold can cost tens of thousands of dollars, so the manufacturer really wants to make sure that they have everything set up correctly before they spend that money. Urethane parts generally have a better finish than their fiberglass counterparts. The reason is these parts are machine-made, so they are usually smoother with less surface flaws. Now, urethane is more expensive than fiberglass in almost every case. The reason is the molds are so much more expensive to make, and the materials themselves are actually more expensive. Another issue with urethane is it's going to be a little more difficult to make the paint adhere to the urethane, so the prep work may take a little more time and cost a little more when it comes time to take it to the body shop. Another thing about urethane is it can warp in extreme temperatures. So if you live in uber hot Arizona or you live in extreme bone-chilling cold of Minnesota, over time urethane has a tendency to kind of distort and twist and warp a little bit. Now, if you live in the majority of the United States where we have just moderate temperatures, that won't be an issue. Of course, the way to combat that, if you live in one of those extreme temperature areas, is to keep your vehicle in the garage during those high temperature and low temperature months. So now that you have the scoop on polyurethane, let's turn our focus to fiberglass. Fiberglass body kits are less expensive to produce in almost every case for a couple of reasons. One is there are no expensive molds or very expensive machinery to produce them. Also, the fiberglass material is much less expensive. It's hand-laid in molds, so there's no expensive machinery, making it much less expensive to produce. Another great feature about fiberglass is it holds its shape. It doesn't matter whether you live in Montana or in the 125 degrees of Arizona, that fiberglass is going to hold its shape. Another advantage of fiberglass is it's much easier to paint and get the paint to adhere to it. Basically, all you need to do is primer it, shoot it, and it's ready to install. Now, fiberglass is more rigid by nature, so it's not going to give like polyurethane. If you're going to put a fiberglass nose piece on your car, when you pull up to those parking blocks or curbs, you need to be real careful when parking. This is an example of a front bumper cover that was actually in our warehouse, and as you can see, one of our guys stepped on it. If that would have been polyurethane, not a problem. Since fiberglass body kits are hand-designed and handmade, you're not going to have the precision of fit and finish that you will in a urethane part. So if you compare the fitment of a handmade fiberglass part to, say, a part that's produced by Ford that's CAD designed and machine made, there's going to be a difference. The fiberglass part is going to take a little bit more elbow grease to install than it will for its counterpart in urethane. That all said, not all fiberglass is created equal. Fiberglass body kits are definitely one of those where you get what you pay for. We're going to show you how fiberglass body kits are manufactured so you can see how those differences are achieved. Okay, the first step in our process, they take and they clean the mold, and then they put a wax on there which acts as a releasing agent before they spray the gel coat on. Now once the mold is cleaned and the releasing agent is put on here, it comes into this booth where he puts on the gel coat. After it dries, you take a piece of fiberglass matting and saturate it in resin and lay it into the mold. The resin will have to be treated with a catalyst so it cures shortly after it's applied to the fiberglass matting. When applying the matting in the mold, oftentimes rollers are used, and the goal is to lay the matting as perfectly as possible, leaving no gaps and no air bubbles. Now once the fiberglass cures, they'll come through with a razor knife and they'll trim all the way around to get all the excess off there. Then they're going to pop this out of the mold. Now that it's popped out of the mold, it's nice and smooth, great finish on this. Now they're going to take this over to another area and trim all the edges and get it ready for shipping. Now that you know how a fiberglass bumper is made, we're going to highlight how manufacturers differ. Some manufacturers choose to use a thinner fiberglass mat. This is going to result in a little more brittle product. Now generally when you reduce the cost of manufacturing, you reduce the materials used, you're going to end up with a product that is a little less quality. Now another area where manufacturers differ is in the resins that they use. Now the resin is basically the glue that they soak the fiberglass mat in to form this. Now there's a couple of different types. You have a polyester resin. Now the polyester resin is not a bad resin per se. It's a little bit cheaper and it forms up when it hardens. It's a little more rigid. Then you have a vinyl ester. Now the vinyl ester is a little more expensive, and the resin and the reason that you want the vinyl ester is when it cures, it's not hard. It still has some sort of a little bit of flexibility in it, and that makes a big difference when it comes to making fiberglass bumpers. Another consideration is the condition of the molds. If a manufacturer spends time and resources keeping their molds in good shape with an excellent surface coat, then the finish of the products they make out of that mold will be better. Their costs get passed on to you in the form of higher prices, but obviously you get what you pay for. And the end result might actually be a lower overall cost when you figure less prep time when it comes time to paint. So clearly, not all fiberglass products are created equal. There are a couple of brands that actually make fantastic fiberglass products. Duraflex by Extreme Dimensions is one of those. Some people actually consider this or think of this as a urethane product because it actually resembles urethane, but it's actually a very well-made fiberglass product. Now, Extreme Dimensions' manufacturing process is a closely guarded secret, but our bet is that they use a high viscous resin and they spend time and money taking really good care of their molds. The finished product is like a hybrid of fiberglass and urethane and has a really great finish. So the bottom line is, as always, you get what you pay for. If you're comparing a couple of body kits at AndysAutoSport.com and one is noticeably less expensive, it's probably not quite the quality of the higher priced one. So now you know the difference between urethane and fiberglass. You can consider yourself an expert just like we are. As you navigate the Andys Autosport website in our body kit section and you're looking for a urethane body kit, the word urethane will specifically be in the product name. If the material is not listed in the product name, then it's made out of fiberglass, which is the large majority of what body kits are made of. If you ask us, our favorite brands of urethane body kits are Wings West, Xenon, KBD, Street Scene, JP, and Couture. Our favorite brands of fiberglass body kits are Duraflex by Extreme Dimensions, VIS Racing, V-Fiber, B-Magic, and Piranha. At Andys Autosport, your satisfaction is 100% guaranteed, so feel free to order whatever kit you want, knowing that you're protected. It is our goal here to educate you and help you make a well-informed decision. We hope you've learned something today, and we'll see you on another episode of Andys Autosport TV.